So, Lioness, could you tell us about the two songs that you
I
have?
just yawned, you know. I didn't know you started.
Yeah.
Oh, you can cut it.
So, could you tell us about the two songs that are in the film? Um, I Live I and Yes Ja.
Alright. I live a ride. I live a ride. It's about a track. Basically, I live in I to a place where there's light and no darkness. So basically, I'm asking the Almighty I, you know, to help I day to day with purity, you know, so I can reside. And I'm next to the mighty I in Zion I. So basically, when I wrote this track at the end of the first year gone. I said last year, I say first year. And it took her about 45 minutes to write it. And the inspiration, I remember that day, you know, I was watching a DVD about the New World Order, and you know, I was saying, Jah, Rastafari, rescue one, you know. So I just prayed for purity, and the meditation came up, my mentor, you know. So Father blessed I with word, sound, and power to bring that tune forward, to go to the studio. And I remember the day I recorded that track, and I sat in the booth, I stood in the booth, and I closed our eyes, and I just pretended there was a procession of saints walking down a road, and you know we were lined up, and as they were walking down, they were pulling people left, right, and center, you know, who made it to Zion, and they were actually coming up to I, and I just sang for my life. I live a ride, you know what I mean? So that song is precious to I, and you know when I sing it on stage, you know it touches a lot of people, and a lot of people I know they know the lyrics. You know I can sing that song, and people can sing it along with I. So that song carries powers. So give thanks, and yes, Jah, yes, Jah. I will, I'll do your works, I'll speak highly of you. You know, I'll teach whatever that I has taught I will teach, I will pass on. So basically I'm saying, yes, Jah, I'll do your works, you know. Everything you taught I will deliver to whoever I know and uplift with my music. So that's important, the spiritualness in my music, you know. And that's why when Esther found I on Facebook, you know, and she approached I and she told I about the project, and straight away I was, you know, I was happy and excited to be part of it because growing up, who didn't hear of Bob Marley, you know? And I remember the first CD I had of him was The Legend, Bob Marley, The Legend, you know? Um, and all these songs I knew off by heart, and I sang out. So I know with Bob Marley's music, there's a lot of spiritualness, and that's what captivated I as a young lioness growing up, you know. Even though, yeah, I've got the fire side. I've always had my fire. At the same time, you know, I've got to make sure I'm grounded, you know, keep myself grounded because the groundation, the spiritualness will control the lioness, you know. Without that, I'll just be an uncontrollable lioness, and that wouldn't be good. Yeah, so the spiritualness help I, you know, and to go through, you know, and know when to roar, know when to be humble, you know, but at the same time, it's Jah work, it's Almighty's work. And every day I pray for purity, you know, keep my temple clean. So Father, give me the inspiration and the meditation for the word, sound, and power to put down on paper, you know, to go to the studio to record, to get my backing track done, and to go out to the stage, you know, and to I live with those songs, you know, that he's told me to. Yeah, that's the greatest. Yeah, so um, I got some songs on Reverb Nation. So I told Esther to go on there to see my songs, and she really loved, you know, I think I got 10 tracks up there. So yes, John, I live where I, the two tracks she picked out, you know. which are strong tracks for I too. You know, it draws the powers, draws the spirits, you know, seven spirits surrounded. I always talk about my angel. You know, it's important. The spiritual side of I is important for the lioness. Without that,
And you went to Africa to record a video of that song.
yes,
Will you tell us
yes,
about it?
yeah. I recorded the video for I Live Arrive at Cape Coast. I went to the slave castle. I went into the dungeons, you know, and that's another side of thing which uplifted the song. Because where the video was filmed, you know, it was a big connection to my ancestors, you know, my brothers, my sisters, you know, and I felt the pain, you know, because I'm spiritual. I picked up the presence. I picked up the pain. You know, I saw where they kept. I felt the suffering. You know, so at the same time, and I actually filmed on the rocks surrounding the castle where the boat came up to take I, you know, to the lava regions, and where they changed the boat, there's still a big route there where they changed the boat to. And I put my foot on it and I sang I Live Alright, you know, and I said, yeah, I'm surrounded. I have my audience. I can't see them, but I have my audience in the sea, you know, there's souls in the sea. I sang to them, you know, I sang for the souls in the hills, in the valleys, you know, I don't forget. And this trod to Cape Coast was actually another level for the lioness. You know, I took say my game. I took my mission to another level. You know, spiritual fire level. Because for what I saw, you know, I've read books. You know, more time the books don't tell you everything. You know, because certain people control what we hear, what we see, and what we need to learn. When I forward to the castle myself, and I saw where, you know, my people was kept for what, you know, and to I, that's where that's where the spiritual fire comes from, you know, from my ancestors picking up on what, you know, they had to endure, you know, and being at the castle, you know, I went into the governor's quarters, you know, I went upstairs, you know what I mean, 16 big windows surrounding the place, and right underneath them is the dungeons where the slaves are kept. You know, so while he's upstairs tucked out in big four-poster bed, you know, there was all 60 men locked up in one room fighting for air, you know, and every rising, you know, you'd find bodies on the floor, you know, and that's where he slept. He slept above that, you know. I walked around, I went into the female dungeons, I went into the, you know, the male dungeons, I went to the dungeons for the runaway slave, you know. That's where the fire comes from. And I went to the dungeons. I went to one dungeon, there's a male dungeon, and I sat on the floor. And there was like, you know, they must use their shackles to engrave symbols and their names in it. And I sat down with my little niece. I ran my fingers through the names and the symbols, and, you know, for a good 15 minutes. And I hold a vibe. And before that, there was about 10 people in this one room with the guide and talking about it. And I wasn't even listening to him, paying attention, because I was more interested in feeling the atmosphere, you know, and, you know, where I could see the bricks, because it's just one wall everywhere you look, you know, and one little crack in the door, which light came through. And I was observing every brick that I saw. Every brick I saw, I observed it, you know, and where you could see light on the floor, you could see the symbols, and I sat down. Everyone walked out because they were holding their chairs. They couldn't, you know, take the vibration, you know, and I stood firm with my little niece. So I said, yeah, we're the last ones, you know. So I said, yeah, let's hold it for our family. And we sat on the ground and we run our fingers through the symbols and we held our vibe. And I felt them. I felt the presence. And I felt the presence strong. I wasn't frightened. I wasn't frightened, you know. So I stood my groundation, and I spoke to the warriors of ancient times. That's where I get my strength from, you know, the battlefield warrior strength, you know, from the ancestors.
And that is in the lines as well. You know, you've got the word warriors, don't you, in one of your songs?
Most of my songs, most of my songs have warriors, warrioresses, lions, lionesses. You know, I also talk about the prophet, the priests, the kings, the queens. You know, we have to remember, you know, Abyssinian children, you know, Rasta children. Everyone has a mission, you know. You know, we can't have a prophet and a priest and a king. We have to know what our mission is here, you know. At the end of the day, I'm spiritual, you know. I'm a lioness on the battlefield, you know, fighting for truths and rights, you know, and to uplift the nation, you know, and to set a vibration for the ancestors, you know, and show them, you know, that there are warriors after them to hold it for them, you know. So that's how Rastafari set it. That's the mission. I know my mission. I know my mission, you know. My mission for Rastafari.
Well, thank you very much. And we will continue this a bit later.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Lioness.